5, 3.
A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for tuning in to ANN 7 Prime right here on DSTV channel 405. My name is Gyora Matloba and we're coming to you live from our studios in Cape Town, where tomorrow the President of the Republic will be giving his State of the Nation address. Now, in our top story this evening, well, our main discussion for tonight, the Save SA campaigners, a clash with ANC supporters today outside the St. George's Cathedral in Cape Town. This after the Save SA convener, Pityana, led a naked personal attack against President Jacob Zuma in his alternative Sona address. Now, Pityana went so far as to urge the Speaker of the National Assembly not to address President Zuma as an honorable president. Now, he also asked everyone in attendance to ensure that tomorrow's speech by President Zuma will be his last Sona address. Take a listen to this.
My dear President Zuma, you must know that as a nation we no longer have confidence in your leadership. You are not trusted by the people. You're not trusted by civil society, and increasingly you're not trusted by your own party and its allies. When the opposition parties supported a motion of no confidence last year, you deliberately misinterpreted the objection of your own members when they objected to that motion, and that it meant support for you. But now you know that ANC members through their various structures have urged you to step down, not only as President of the country, but also as a leader of that esteemed organization, the African National Congress. I would urge the Speaker of the House to not address President Zuma tomorrow as honorable when she invites him to take up the podium to represent the state of the nation. For as you all know, that it is a matter of fact now that he is not. And more importantly, he shouldn't be addressing us as a nation in his capacity as a president, for he has broken the contract between himself and the citizens of this country. Instead, Parliament should be telling all of us when it intends to hold him to account following the Constitutional Court judgment on the secure in comfort. Our hard-won freedom and right to self-determination can be handed over to shady characters, a gang of looters who are determined to steal from the poor. A leader not befitting an honor that the nation has bestowed on him to be a president, for he prefers to be a courtbrook. He prefers to be a spanner boy, a runner of a bunch of crooks and criminals.
Now, while there are a host of allegations that Pityana made, there are some things that he seems to have deliberately left out. While my colleague, Abigail Fasahi, explains further.
Let's take a closer look at what Pityana had to say earlier this afternoon during what Save SA termed the real State of the Nation address. Let's take a look at what Pityana says. He says the biggest tender grab, the nuclear energy deal, is orchestrated by Zuma and his cronies. What Pityana hides is he forgets about the evidence of corruption, or forget about evidence of corruption. There's no nuclear deal that has been signed off so far. That's with regards to the nuclear deal. Taking a look at what else Pityana had to say this afternoon. He says Zuma falsely promised free education to students, and he is destroying the universities of the country. What Pityana hides, the ANC has denied having ever promised free education for all. This is a debatable topic with regards to the education issue in the country, and hashtag fees must fall. Also, zero fee hike was achieved on Zuma's intervention in 2015. This is another thing that Pityana hides. Zuma leaned on party and government to extend subsidy net to more needy people. This is with regards to Pityana talking about President Jacob Zuma not doing enough with regards to hashtag fees must fall and the varsity issue in South Africa. On to another issue, Zuma is looting the poor for his gratification of self and his cronies. What Sipho Pityana hides in that regard, no court has found the president guilty of any corruption or personal gratification. Taking a further look at this, what Pityana says, Zuma's presidency has attempted to sell the country out, as revealed in the state capture report. What Pityana hides in this instance is inconclusive state capture report hasn't held anyone guilty. It only asks for more probes with regards to that state capture report. Moving on, President Jacob Zuma has accused former public protector Sela of not giving him the right to reply to that state capture report. And also, graft allegations need to be dealt by stakeholder ministries and agencies and not necessarily the president of the country. Moving on and taking a further look at to what Sipho Pityana had to say earlier this afternoon when addressing the media and other parties during what he called the real State of the Nation address. Pityana says Zuma has failed to defeat the forces of racism in South Africa, but what Pityana hides is that the Zuma administration has been working on the hate speech bill as a puntive measure to combat racism.
Well, clearly, as Abigail has explained, there are some allegations by Sipho Pityana which seem rather groundless because there are no facts to support what he is saying, and he omits certain facts or truths with regards to these allegations. Well, joining me in studio to discuss this further is our resident political analyst, Sifiso Mahlangu. A very good evening to you, Sifiso. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, Sipho Pityana had what he termed the real State of the Nation address today. Just 24 hours or a day before the President of the Republic is due to deliver his actual official State of the Nation address. And now a lot of some of his accusations are based on, innuendos and hearsay, not really factual. What do you think he's trying to achieve by this, the day before the actual address?
And, a good evening to Africa. The sun has not come down in Cape Town yet, and it's a very festive mood here. The SANDF musical is playing, and I think Mr. Pityana's attempt was to really put a somber mood on this festive occasion. I've attended a few Sonas, and this one seems to have some life into it, though the security detail seems to be somewhat stronger, or with a stronger visibility of the security detail. But it's still, with the performance that you'd expect, everything flowery, the weather has come out very clearly. The somber part is for those of us who have listened to Mr. Pityana today and his scaling attack. I'm reminded of the time that Mr. Sipho Pityana took over the funeral of Mr. Kenkesi Stofile, and he went and lambasted on President Jacob Zuma, even at a funeral. So I think as South Africans, we know that Mr. Pityana would use any event, any public event and any public office to hit back at the president. It does not involve facts. He does not come against him with feasible details of what has happened. There is no evidence that he has presented, not today, not in any other day. And so these are the rhetorics and the theatrics that I think one can expect from a man such as Mr. Pityana. I think the reality is that President Zuma tomorrow will be speaking as the head of state. He will not be speaking as the head of the ANC. He will not be speaking as a representative of his family. He's going to speak as the head of state, the democratically elected president of the republic. And we are keen to hear what he has to say. I think Mr. Pityana's attempt to steal the limelight and perpetuate his own real, and I say this in inverted commas, his real State of the Nation address. He's not the president. He's not the democratically elected president of South Africa. He can wish in his own home that he can make the Sona to whoever he wants to and whoever is available to listen. I do believe that it is also Mr. Pityana's right to think or assume that he is the president. In your own house, you can think you are anybody, I suppose. But the reality is the President of the Republic is Mr. Jacob Zuma, and we are here to listen to what he has got to say for the nation. There are serious issues that we expect to hear about. this is the year of radical transformation. That's what we want to hear about. The semantics and the theatrics of what others say, condemning the speech that has not even been made yet, is ridiculous to start with. And so South Africa will be tuning in tomorrow evening to hear what the president has got to say concerning the future of this nation.
Now, Sifiso, we also have a political analyst in studio back at Midrand, Putsang, also in studio. Thank you so much for joining us, Putsang. What do you make of Sipho Pityana's state, what he calls his real State of the Nation address, delivered just a day before the President of the Republic is due to give a State of the Nation address? And what do you make of the accusations he's made?
Good evening to you and good evening to your viewers. I must say I don't take Mr. Pityana serious, and I think what the so-called black media mistake we are making, an analyst is giving him attention with all his Mickey Mouse games. That's what I call it. I don't understand how on his right mind can he actually say he's got a State of the Nation address when he is not even leading any political party and or any movement in the country that is recognized. Therefore, I have a challenge in actually the attention that we continue to give Mr. Pityana, who is a former public servant who has dismally failed in his duties as a public servant when he was the Director General of primarily labor in the country and subsequently the Director General of the Department of Foreign Affairs, or then the Department of Foreign Affairs. But also what is demeaning is the manner that he conducts himself as the convener of the so-called Save South Africa group, whereby all he does is to come on television and insult Jacob Zuma or the head of state. That's all. All his statements are full of personal attacks and personal insults to the head of state. Now, once a person demeans another person to that level and reduces his political argument to insulting a person and calling a person by name, to an extent of even mentioning in some of his insults the president's parents, saying the only thing that Zuma and his parents had is the name that the parents gave him. You know, that's not, that's unbecoming, and that's actually being reduced to the dustbins of the country. And I don't think the country should continue to give Sipho Pityana any attention, because he is not adding any value to this country. The bunch of people that are calling themselves Save South Africa group that he is leading or even misleading, they are not being recognized. They have, most of them, failed in their duties as leaders of the ruling party. They have failed in their duties as public servants, and they became successful when they started serving the white monopoly capital. So all that he is doing with this parallel structure that is DA supported and white funded is to try and divert attention of the people of this country from what are the actual challenges that we are faced with as a nation, to say to the people of South Africa, the enemy of poverty, the enemy of expensive education, the enemy of unemployment and imbalances in the economy of the country is the person named Jacob Zuma. Now, that cannot be true. It can also not be true that one person in the entire leadership of the ANC, from the times of Oliver Tambo via Nelson Mandela to Thabo Mbeki, can be blamed for all the wrongdoings that the ANC has done or the failures of the organization.
Those are very strong points that you're making there, but clearly it seems as though Pityana has a campaign, just like a smear campaign, really out to get at the president. I want to bring somebody else into the conversation right now, Mphato from the SALF, joining us on the phone line. A very good evening to you, Mphato. Thank you so much for joining us. What do you make of Sipho Pityana's alleged real State of the Nation address, given out the day before the real one is issued by the President of the Republic of the country?
What we are seeing from the actions of Sipho Pityana is the actions of a desperate man driven by extreme hatred, who would want to advance his fake dreams of becoming a president in wayward and forthrightly illegitimate means. We condemn these actions. In our view, we are dealing with a man who cannot control his hatred, who is prepared to go to the extremes to advance that hatred, and who would want to hoodwink us, all South Africans, into joining in the fray of a regime change project that is funded by London and do so by all manner of means, undermining the electoral processes of this country and the South African Constitution. And we are saying to Ndate Pityana, if really you would want to be the president, let him form a party, wait for 2019, contest elections, win or be beaten there. If he wins, he would become the president, he would give a credible and legitimate Sona. But if he loses, he should reduce himself to becoming an opposition and start engaging in progressive politics rather than insults and venom.
Well, please, I'm going to ask you, Mr. Mpha, to just stay on the line with us as we continue the discussion here in the Cape Town studios. Fiso, just on the issue of the nuclear deal. Now, Pityana mentioned that, President Zuma and his cronies were behind a nuclear deal that the country signed, whereas there has been no official declaration of any nuclear deal signed. Is this not a personal attack on the president?
A lot of the things, Jorapets, are very personal. A lot of the attacks that have been scathing against President Zuma have been very personal. President Zuma has not been charged with any crime. It is impossible for President Zuma or one family in this country to supposedly capture the state or capture the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. If one were to commit a state capture, they'd have to have the entire judiciary, the magistrates and the judges at the palm of their hands. I don't think anybody has that power, particularly not one individual or a single family in this country. For him to cite about the nuclear deal is ridiculous to begin with. There are no findings to present. That matter is ludicrous. I don't think that it has been heard, but if you want a podium to stand in and to declare some insults and some mudslinging and to try and perform some cheap politicking, I think he can be entitled to that. It is his opinion. But the reality of the matter is that the president is not charged with anything. He's speaking tomorrow at the State of the Nation address, is him speaking as the head of state, to which he is elected by a majority of this country's people. And I think the people who elected the president, who chose the ANC as the ruling party, have the right to hear what the president says, because the electorate went out to exercise their constitution, their constitutional and democratic right of electing the president, and therefore giving the ruling party its mandate. It is then, however, wrong for another body to attempt to act as the president and host their own State of the Nation address. Will he also host his own government? Will he have his own executive? Will he act in his right with all organs of state? He cannot do that. I think this is coming to the point of treason in this country, where things must come out in the clear, and these laws must be put in place. Things like this, I believe, Korapets, must be made illegal. A person cannot come and suddenly say, hey, I'm going to control the armed forces. Well, you know what, I'm going to control the military tomorrow. Well, you know what, I'm going to hold my own State of the Nation address. Those are not things you win by the card of white monopoly capital. We all know that Mr. Pityana is the chairman of Anglo-Ashanti. We all know who pays for Save South Africa. And Save South Africa from what? Or from who? Who does the placards, the banners? Who hosts their accommodation? Who funds this grand movement? It is funded from the pockets of white monopoly capital. And why is it funded this way? It is funded to destabilize this government so that President Zuma can vacate office, so that transformation does not happen. Because white monopoly capital has trusted its agents to keep money in the hands and in the pockets of white interests and white people in this country. And anyone that seems to attempt or to destabilize the ideology of white monopoly capital in this country is trusted, is hated by the media, is scavenged by the press, and white monopoly capital comes against them and uses its agents. And Mr. Pityana is one of those agents, particularly in the year of radical transformation, as the ANC has declared that to them, this is the year of Oliver Tambo. So these are the attempts to destabilize the ANC, I believe, and to destabilize the president from holding the State of the Nation address, but moreover from implementing radical transformation.
I'm going to ask you to hold that thought there. We actually have Nsiki, who is a Save SA coordinator, on the phone line with us. Good evening, Nsiki. Thank you so much for joining us. And now your convener, the Save SA convener, Pityana, gave what he called the real State of the Nation address the day before the president was due to give an official State of the Nation address. And a lot of people are saying that Pityana made allegations that were not founded on real facts. What are your thoughts, or what are your comments on that?
I want to say, good evening to everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity. What I want to say is, what I want to dispel is the notion that it was a Sipho Pityana show. In fact, we had speakers, young people who came from school. We had people who represented people in the health sector. We had people who came as community members. And so we wanted to reflect, and this is why we had the call for today, to have people tell us what they thought the actual State of the Nation was, and this is what was reflected at the church today. So we heard from a woman who had been denied access to healthcare in the form of medicines because it was too costly to treat her. And so things like that are what we are saying is the government of the day needs to address. And the notion that Sipho Pityana is the sole voice of the movement is incorrect.
And Nsiki, what about the timing of Sipho Pityana's or the gathering that you say people were there to talk about the real state of the nation in their opinion? Why was it held a day before the official addresses to be given by the president? Why not earlier on in the year, or as early as last year, before the president prepared his State of the Nation address?
Well, you will know that the Save South Africa movement began to mobilize and to galvanize itself since November last year, where we gathered in Pretoria on the 2nd of November before the Praveen Gordon judgment was handed down. And so we have been working behind the scenes to talk to people on the ground. We've been in Vicksburg, in the Free State, we've been in the Eastern Cape, we've been canvassing people for their views on what they would like to see as change in this country. And the moment was opportune at this time to reveal what people have been telling us.
Well, Nsiki, you know, when Mr. Pityana was giving his address today, you know, he mentioned certain aspects, you know, the nuclear deal, of education, of, you know, fees must fall, but he omitted certain facts about certain, issues that the country is facing. Is this not perhaps a selective way of dealing with the state of the nation, as he calls it, or dealing with saving South Africa, as the banner of the organization is?
As I said, because we were reflecting the views of the people that we've been canvassing on the ground. These are the things that people are feeling are burning issues for them. And this is why Mr. Pityana addressed them in that way. We cannot take on, as Save South Africa, we are a set of organizations who believe in some democratic values and in promoting the Constitution. And so some of what we reflected today was what we as Save South Africa believe in. But the whole point of today really was to have other voices come in and tell us what, and this is why it's important, is because the people of South Africa must save themselves.
Nsiki, you were saying that this is about the people of South Africa getting their voices heard, you know, letting the president know what they feel they want to happen to their country. Now, your gathering today had about 100 people in attendance. Is that really representative of the entire nation of South Africa?
So the Church of St. George's holds about 450 to 500 people, and we had overflow. And so you understand that we could not have everybody that supports Save South Africa there. But we have supporters across the country, and it's not a numbers game, it's about the real issues. And so the issues that were put on the table today are the ones that need to be dealt with.
And on the issue of the state capture report, let me just bring it up since he mentioned it as well. There have been no official charges of guilt laid against the president. So how can the narrative of President Zuma's corruption be perpetuated in an instance where no court of law in the country has actually considered him guilty on corruption charges?
Well, the example that needs to be made there is the Constitutional Court ruling about the public protector's report around Uganda. Her findings are have to be taken into consideration, and so regardless of whether there's been any legal action taken, those rulings, her findings stand.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for your contributions. That was Nsiki, who is the Save SA coordinator, just letting us know about the event that took place today, where the Save SA convener, Pityana, held what he termed the real State of the Nation address, just a day before the president was due to give the official State of the Nation address. I'll just come back to studio. I've got with me our resident analyst, Sifiso Mahlangu. We have in the Midrand studio, Botsang, and we also have on the phone line Mpato from SALF. Now, I was just speaking to the Save SA coordinator, and according to her, it really was about the country of South Africa just voicing their concerns to the president, voicing issues that they feel really reflect the real state of the nation. And she mentioned that the venue that they used was a small one, which is the reason why not the entire country was well represented. What are your comments on that, Sifiso?
Well, it's amazing that Nsiki would suggest that this is reflective of the entire South Africa. The entire South Africa is not represented through one organization. The entire South Africa is represented through a house like the National Assembly, a house like Parliament. The House of Parliament is the NCOP, the legislature. The House of Parliament is all parties represented. So when you go and elect a certain party or leaders, you are electing them to represent you. So the House of Parliament is the collective of all of us who voted for certain leaders or certain parties. An abstract group in a center, in a venue, in a nightclub, saying they are called to save the country, does not reign as a collective group to save this country. We've got the National Assembly, and it is called the National Assembly for exactly that reason, because it is the assembly of natural and national opinion surrogated through leaders who represent the majorities and also the minorities. The scaling attack was against an individual, the president, the state of capture report. Mr. Pityana going on to say he is a wounded man, a wounded leader. There was a comedian who was, sniping jokes at the president's utterance, at his accent, at his communication. That's not a state of the nation. You don't joke about the head of state and, you put a shower head on him and you say, you make everybody laugh and you say, that is a State of the Nation address. A State of the Nation address addresses things like security in the country, the health challenges. The State of the Nation address addresses things like education. That is what South Africa is waiting to hear about 2017 from now on the 9th of February moving forward. Why they had to have it the day before boggles me, because it seems like they're trying to contend with President Zuma being the president and Mr. Pityana being the head of Save SA. Save SA started as a collective group. They went around campaigning people, members of the clergy, religious leaders of business, to say, hey, we've got something to say, do come on. And some members of the ANC actually attended, people like Paul Mashadi. But I think they discovered on the opening speech of Mr. Pityana that this was not a consent group. It was an attack group. It was a sniper religion against an individual, Mr. Jacob Zuma. And people soon fell out of that union or that organization called Save South Africa. Addressing the state of capture and the supposed deal with the Russians is not the state of our nation. as the president will be addressing tomorrow. So it is also the hand of the handlers of Mr. Pityana coming out against the president to really discredit him and to destabilize his seat, to destabilize the National Assembly, so people can lose hope and faith in him, and white monopoly capital can introduce an alternative, the alternative that would protect the interests of capitalists in this country.
Well, you know, just a point of correction on my part, actually. Nsiki is still on the line with us throughout this debate. Nsiki, I just want to come back to you. I just want to, just on the issue of corruption and the state of capture report, yes, the president was found guilty of not following the recommendations made in the public protector's report regarding Nkandla, but he later on paid back that money. But regarding the notion of the president being corrupt, can you just let us know where that comes from? Because the Constitutional Court did not find him guilty of corruption. We'll come back to Nsiki. As you can see right now, there are live visuals of the parliamentary preparations for tomorrow. We can see the South African National Defence Force preparing themselves for tomorrow's parade. They're going to be marching in from the side gate of Parliament all the way through to the front of the Parliamentary House, where they will be giving their gun salute in front of President Jacob Zuma. There's a live visuals there of what's happening right now in Parliament.
How big is this bottle?
Have you seen the news?
Give us some money,
Some want to call you Jimmy. I don't know why. Where do they get that from?
You know,
Yes, please. Hello. You know what?
There's the live visuals that you can see right there in front of you, just outside the Parliament building, where the President Jacob Zuma will be standing in front of the door tomorrow evening before he enters to give his State of the Nation address. When he stands there, the South African National Defence Force, as you see them dressed in their wonderful attire there, will do the gun salute. I believe it's a 22 or 24 gun salute before the President, and they're just doing their dress rehearsals today all the way from where they begin their march in the city of Cape Town, a few blocks that they'll be walking all the way across to the Parliamentary precinct, where they will be giving their gun salute. And as we know, the President will have a guard of honor, including, well, made up mainly of the South African National Defence Force, as he makes his way to Parliament tomorrow. So what we're seeing right now is a dress rehearsal for what will be happening tomorrow evening before we hear the State of the Nation Address 2017. We'll just come back to studio. I have with me Sifiso Mahlangu, as an analyst. I'm also joined by Mr. Mzwanele. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. And in our Midrand studios, we have Botsang, who is our political analyst. We also have on the phone line Mpata from the SALF. And we still have with us Nsiki, who is a Save SA coordinator. We're talking about Mr. Sipho Pityana's what he calls the real State of the Nation address event that took place today in Cape Town, just coming up a day before the President of the Republic is due to give his State of the Nation address. Now, before we went to the visuals from the dress rehearsal taking place right outside the Parliament of South Africa, I just wanted to hear from Nsiki regarding the allegations made against President Jacob Zuma. Now, what my question was to Nsiki is that with regards to the Nkandla matter, President Zuma was found guilty of not following the public protector's recommendations, and eventually he did pay back the money that he was meant to pay. Now, regarding the corruption and the state of capture report, the Constitutional Court did not find the president guilty of corruption based on recommendations or findings of the state capture report. Instead, a probe or further probes are meant to be taken. So where does the narrative that the president is guilty of state of capture actually come from? Well, Nsiki, what I was asking you earlier on, I believe you didn't hear me very clearly, is that regarding the Nkandla matter, the President Jacob Zuma was found guilty of not carrying out the recommendations made by the public protector, but eventually he did pay back the money. Now, with regards to state of capture, he wasn't found guilty by the Constitutional Court. So where does the narrative that he's guilty of corruption and state of capture come from? Well, it seems we've lost Nsiki there. Well, let me just cross over to you, Botsang, who is in our Midrand studios. You've been listening to the conversation. You heard Nsiki's comments regarding what took place this afternoon. In her defense, she says that it wasn't just Sipho Pityana who was speaking against the president, but there were other stakeholders who are representing the entire country with regards to their views regarding the state of the country. What do you have to say about that?
At the helm of this Save South Africa movement, he is the one who has thrown insults, and in every statement he mentions Jacob Zuma as if Jacob Zuma is South Africa. But let me do this. Let us go into what you just Nsiki and she failed to answer, to say if there are no corruption charges at hand or court's conclusion regarding the behavior of President Zuma, why are they bringing up corruption issue? Another element is, I've got respect for the opposition parties like the EFF and the DA, which used courts of this country, constitutional processes, as well as parliament, to can bring the president to book and make the president to pay the money that he was found to have unduly benefited from. Now, that is following processes. Now, this Mr. Pityana comes representing white capital, and I'm stating it white capital not because it's a way that is being used on fashion, but because he is at the helm of a mining company that is exploiting resources in this country as well as other countries in Africa. And that is white capital. That company is based in England and is the chairperson of that capital. He is the person who is flying a national flag around saying he is representing the interest of South Africa, while he is actually raping and lambasting the constitution of this country, which clearly defines and describes on how to deal with issues that he's lamenting on. Now, earlier Nsiki says some of the issues that their followers who are filling up a hall, it's like free education and all those things, but they don't understand the historical founding principle of the liberation struggle in South Africa. It has been the land question. Now, I do not understand how will Mr. Pityana, being a representative of white capital that has stolen land from black people in this country, that is continuing to milk and mine the minerals and resources of this country with his handlers, with his bosses based in London. How will he fight for the best interests of black people who are being dispossessed, who are economically excluded, who are actually living in poverty and squalor at the expense of the settler minority people that he's working for? I've said earlier on, Mr. Pityana himself He has issued statements like, during the Thabo Mbeki era of 2002 and 2007, South Africa experienced the best middle class growth of 4.5%. Now, what kind of a leader of his caliber, who is London educated as a matter of fact, comes and talk about a black middle class? There is nothing called black middle class. Mr. Pityana must be able to tell his followers what is the meaning of black middle class, because this country is divided through the color line, which is the rich. Yes? Hello? Yes, I'm still here.
I was saying I'm having a challenge hearing you. I just want to go to Nsiki if she's back on the line. Good evening, Nsiki. Are you still with us?
Pato from the SALF, who is also with us on the phone line. And Pato, now, when Mr. Pityana was speaking today, he was rather silent regarding the ABSA bailout scandal, as well as the Oppenheimers apparently bullying the government into having a luxury airport. What are your thoughts on that? Isn't it perhaps a bit of a selective campaign? Why did he leave those issues out?
Why did he leave those issues out?
Mpata, let me just repeat that question for you. This is Mpata from the SALF. I was saying that Pityana was rather quiet today regarding the ABSA bailout scam, as well as the Oppenheimers bullying government into building a luxury airport. Why do you think that was? That not perhaps rather selective if he wanted to speak about the entire state of the nation? Why didn't he mention specific topics today?
We'll try reconnect with Mpato there from the SALF. Let's just come back to studio here in Cape Town. I have with me now on the issue of the ABSA bailout scandal, as well as the Oppenheimers bullying the government into building a luxury airport. Why was Pityana silent? Let me just start with you, Mr. Manye.
Yeah. Let's just start with your earlier intro where you talk about Nkandla and what have you, and make it clear to South Africans that it's important that South Africa must be honest. When the Nkandla thing happened, there was what you could call in the country legal uncertainty. The issue here is not that President Zuma has killed anybody. President Zuma did not implement the recommendations of the public protector because he thought they were just recommendations. And at the time, he was not alone. With him, he had the Law Society of South Africa. These are the legal eagles, people trained in law, PhDs and all. They also thought the same. He also had on his side the Western Cape High Judge, Judge Skeepers, who also said that these recommendations are not binding. As if that's not enough, he also had even Yakub, a former constitutional judge, who also said that public protector is just a mere ombudsperson, as it were. So it's important that South Africa must understand that when President Zuma did not implement the recommendations as articulated, he was under the same impression as all these other legal eagles that these recommendations are not binding. So when he discovered that they were binding, in fact, he made the concession even before the court, as it were. So let's just be clear on that one. And then, indeed, I note that to make very good point about the fact that even this state of capture dossier by Madonsela, that even on that dossier, as it were, there's no adverse findings, not even on the Guptas, not even on President Zuma himself. So as we see it here and now, President Zuma is as innocent as you can get. He's smelling roses, as it were. Pityana, indeed, I didn't hear his comments, but if I follow a question, indeed is a very selective person. You can see that he's a typical stooge of the white monopoly capital. This is a person that is busy pushing the Oppenheimer agenda. This is a person that is doing absolutely nothing to ensure that the workers on the ground get the 12,500 that they so much deserve. This is a person that is not ensuring that the mines that he is chairman of, that they do the labor social plans that they were meant to do. All he is doing is just pushing a regime change agenda. He's just quiet about the ABSA issue, which he should be talking about as a member of the business community, because we want a business community that is a good corporate citizen that obeys the laws of this country. We can't have a situation that a big bank like ABSA is coming up with all kinds of stories instead of paying back our 3 point whatever billion or even 10 billion actually if you work out interest and all. So indeed, I don't think South Africa should take Sipho Pityana seriously at all. I think it's just a typical white monopoly capital stooge that should just be discarded.
Well, it seems we have Mpato back on the line. Mpato, we're discussing the issue of the ABSA bailout scandal and the Oppenheimers bullying the government into building a luxury airport. And we want to know why Pityana did not mention it in his so-called real state of capture report. What are your thoughts on that?
I did not expect at all that Sipho Pityana would raise any matter in relation to ABSA or his own Anglo-Gold Ashanti, which he presides over, that is dripping the blood of so many African peoples and blacks who died digging gold in the belly of our mines, giving money to the white capitalists who would whisk that money away to other offshore countries without reinvesting it back into our country to create employment, to fight inequality, and to fight poverty. He would not touch that because as it is, we have professed as South African Liberty Foundation that Sipho Pityana is a rented agent of these very forces. He speaks on their behalf. He's paid very well to mobilize our society, take advantage of the gullible in our African space to ensure that it drives robustly and vigorously a regime change agenda sponsored by the very ABSA people and the very Anglo-Gold Ashanti people. So from Mr. Pityana, we are seeing a man who had sold his soul to advance an agenda that counters the interest in his own people, portraying himself as a messiah of the very same people. As Liberty Foundation, we truly welcome and appreciate the era of Jacob Zuma's call for radical economic transformation, and we truly also welcome the position that has been taken by the NEC Lekgotla of the African National Congress to radically transform our economy in order to radically and vigorously address inequality, poverty, and unemployment in this country. And if Jacob Zuma is going to advance that agenda, if the modern ANC is going to advance that agenda that seeks to redress the scourge of poverty and oppression that has been meted on our people by the very forces of monopolies in our economic space, we should simply, as South Africans, welcome this moment. To us, this is the moment when our liberty, true liberty, begins. But if people like Mr. Pityana fail to recognize that, if the people Mr. Pityana fails to recognize that this very Anglo-Gold Ashanti that he presides over drips the blood of our people, and he does nothing to transform those establishments to serve the interests of our people, and to ensure that those instruments that hold capital and that are responsible for the misery that we are in today do something at least to show the mood of reconciliation amongst our people, their willingness to support our democracy and to embrace our current constitutional dispensation. If Mr. Pityana is failing to do that, nothing else that we can see as African people is Mr. Pityana except a blatant, outright, rented stooge of our oppressor and our class enemies.
I'm just bringing it back to the studio. Also, Sipho Pityana's credentials are being scrutinized currently, you know, and Tito Mboweni once called him noisy and once accused him of trying to discredit the ANC and trying to pull it down. Do you think that is his agenda?
I definitely think that is his agenda. I did see a tweet by former Reserve Bank Governor, Mr. Tito Mboweni, lambasting Mr. Sipho Pityana. And his exact words are, Pityana is noisy and does not speak for the ANC. The ANC actually is spoken for by the wards. Which ward is he representing? I thought that was a very good comment or a good question about Mr. Pityana. I don't know if he speaks for the ANC, but what ward does he represent? And what party of the ANC is he? I'm always concerned when people are saying they want to save South Africa. We don't see them at Fees Must Fall. When there are fires in Alexandra, you will not see them. When there's a coffin case in Middleburg, you will not hear anything from Mr. Pityana and Save South Africa. The CIX report was out there. You had nothing from him. The ABSA report from the former public protector that was leaked, implicating ABSA and many other organizations. Mr. Pityana will say nothing about that. Save South Africa will say absolutely nothing about that. When students are beaten up, trying to protest for free education in this country. Mr. Pityana will not be there. Save South Africa will not comment. The stalwarts will not be heard. So what exactly are they saving South Africa from? Is the agenda not just the president? I hope that there can be an organization such as Save SA with an agenda beyond just one man. And we'd like to see them on the street when there's trouble in this country. We'd like them to engage us, but they are not there. So the agenda is primarily to deal with President Zuma. However, I must say that I'm happy that the likes of Mr. Tito Mboweni, who also sat under the public protector, the former public protector Thuli Madonsela, investigated him and he had to account on what he knew about the Absa billions that went missing pre and post apartheid. I'm glad that people such as him do see Mr. Pityana for what it is. I do believe that South Africa should not give him the time of day. I do believe that that such comments that try to destabilize this nation and its security should be overlooked with the highest ignorance that they deserve. But as I said, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but not everyone is entitled to their own facts. Unfortunately.
We just want to go back to Botsang, who is still with us in our Midrand studios. Botsang, just speaking about Pityana's credentials, what are his credentials that he should be able to pit himself against President Jacob Zuma? What gives him that confidence?
I think once you start trying to pitch Sipho Pityana against President Zuma, we won't even start there. But we shouldn't look at the so-called political credentials. I've already mentioned that Sipho Pityana is a typical puppet and product of white imperialism. He studied in London, both his qualifications. He was groomed and trained by the British to come back to South Africa after the liberation and foster and advance their interest. And they have successfully done that. Now, this is the person who served the Department of Labor as a Director General from 1999 to 2002, and then from 2002 to whenever as the Director General of the Department of Foreign Affairs. During that era, those two crucial posts, he did nothing for the development of black people, to curb unemployment of black people in this country. He did nothing to transform the former lily white Department of Foreign Affairs that was actually the mouthpiece of the government outside the country. So he was advancing the white capital strategy. But let's also look at how imperialism works. What they do is they go throughout countries that they colonize and they put monies on. They pick up brainy people who they take to various universities across the world, brainwash them and prepare them to eras like this. And he has proven to be a typical product that was groomed and prepared to can come and claim in front of our people that is representing the black agenda, while he is not mentioning, as I've said earlier on, the fundamental requirement of the black agenda, which is the land question. Now, we cannot take that person serious and start equating.
Distance itself from Pityana. The CEO initiative distance itself from Pityana. The Eastern Cape province of the African National Congress, where he emanates from, are distancing themselves from him. They're not even heeding his call. So this man is just representing himself and his employer. And I don't think South Africa should take Sipho Pityana seriously at all.
And from you, Sfiso?
I think if anybody can be who they want in their own house. Sometimes I can wear a leather jacket in my house and pretend I am Michael Jackson. It does not incline me to his name. So Sipho Pityana can attempt, believe, or hope to be the president of the republic that is only won through the ballot, and the electorate has not chosen him. So we will overlook him and head to the real business of transformation tomorrow as we listen to the President of the Republic address this country on Sona 2017.